Christianity under attack tonight. Horrific violence and threats facing Christians in Iraq. Pleas for help falling on deaf ears around the world. Will and can anything be done before Christianity as we know it is wiped out? With me now, former U.S. Ambassador to the UN and Fox News contributor John Bolton. Ambassador, good evening. Can the United States help protect Christians in the Middle East?
Well, I think we can, and I think we should. The threat that you've described and we're just talking about comes from a particular kind of ideology. It's a radicalized version of Islam that's both theologically extreme but has an important political dimension to it as well. And it's opposing this kind of ideology that I think is important, but as of now, on which the United States is showing no leadership at all. If anything, many of our policies actually seem sympathetic to this ideology, or at least unwilling to oppose it. And the signal that that sends, obviously, is very negative for the Christians, for smaller sects of Muslim populations, and for anybody else who gets in the way.
And when you say signals, Ambassador, are you referring to the Obama early withdrawal from Iraq? Are supporting the Muslim Brotherhood specifically? What are you referring to?
Well, those are two good places to start. You know, one of the reasons that keeping American forces in Iraq would have been a smart thing to do was to help contain this sectarian conflict and give Iraq the chance to knit itself together as a functioning country. Opposing the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt would have sent a signal that we don't believe that groups like that really are legitimate participants in a democratic process. You could go on and on and on looking at radicalized terrorist groups in Syria, in Libya, in Yemen, all across the Middle East and North Africa. And yet the administration has not taken an effective stand against them. And I think we're seeing the consequences of that now, certainly with ISIS, as you described it, in Syria and Iraq. All
right. Well, Ambassador, you're very familiar with the role of the militants and what they are capable of. I mean, do you think that it not only is it their intent to eliminate Christianity from the Middle East, but do you think they are capable of accomplishing that, especially given the fact that nobody seems to be doing anything?
Well, I think their odds of success are increasing. You know, this is not an ideological movement in the sense that communism was, all flowing from the Marxist ideology written by one man. It's much more of a force in differing respects in different countries, but it's all united by the same basic radicalized form of Islam and its intense hostility to the West and to our values. And that's why I think it's important to recognize this ideology and to take steps against it. I think there are many Muslims in the region who would stand with us if they thought we were there for the long haul. But when they see us backing and filling and withdrawing, they're going to look out for themselves. So actually the chaos deepens because of the lack of American leadership.
And not only that, but, you know, for those Muslims, some of them felt not to be, extremist enough, are being killed as well. The Sunnis are killing the Shia Muslims in Iraq and in this ISIS state. But let's move on to, just for a moment, our embassy in Tripoli evacuated today. Americans told to get out of Libya. What is going on there?
Well, Libya has descended into chaos, and I think that was entirely predictable after the West helped overthrow Gaddafi. As the president said, or as his aide said, leading from behind, he turned his back on Libya, and the central government lost effective control over much of the country. That was one of the reasons, tragically, for the murder of Chris Stevens on September the 11th, 2012. And now the violence and anarchy have continued to spread. I think it's the right thing to do to pull the people out of the embassy. I think that's one of the sad, tragic lessons we learned from September the 11th. But honestly, the broader strategic lesson here is that when the United States turns its back and doesn't try to protect its own interest, this kind of chaos can spread. And I think, again, the possibility of this disease spreading throughout the Middle East is growing. I think the entire region is becoming less stable. We can see it all over, not least of which is in Gaza today. You can see the rise of sectarian and and ethnic tensions. And every prospect is it's going to get worse as long as the United States doesn't try and protect its friends and its allies in its own interest.
And, you know, that vacuum that you speak of also occurred in Egypt after the overthrow of Mubarak. You know, who comes in? Morsi. What a mess that was. Anyway, Ambassador Bolton, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And coming up, a Coptic